about come up with a strategy, do some affordable testing, learn, revise, and continue. So even as I sit here and act expert about what we do, our whole business is primarily what differentiates us than the traditional advertising is, yes, we'll talk to you about your blue shirt and me about my black shirt or whatever things we think are relevant.
Welcome to Clicks and Bricks Podcast. We talk about the entrepreneur mindset.
If you get one shot at this, what kind of shot are you going to take?
If we forget who we are, they're going to forget who you are.
You've got an adversity story that's out of this world.
Everything from that Main Street brick and mortar to that billion-dollar manufacturer.
Eric, can you tell the audience a little bit about yourself, who you are, and where you're from?
Hello, everybody, and thanks for coming today and paying attention. My name is Eric Frankel, and I am the CEO and founder of a company called AdGreets, which I'll make you an expert on over the next 30 plus minutes. Before I decided to do that journey about a decade ago, I spent 30 years at Warner Brothers, the movie television company, where I was president of a multi-billion-dollar division. And more or less, if you live in the United States, and if you saw anything on any form of television that had a Warner Brothers logo, which could have been as much as 20% of every program, those were the deals that myself and my team did, and loved it. Terrific career, lots of reinvention, led the industry in launching on-demand television. I thought that television shouldn't be about what's on NBC at 8, 9, 10, 11, but that you and I should be able to go to a variety of different streaming services that didn't exist. And we should go to menus and genres and press buttons. And some people would get it for free or little cost with ads, and other people would pay more to get less ads or no ads. And people would pay even more to get early windows. And when I went to all of my clients, which were the largest cable, satellite, and internet companies in the world with this vision, they said, that's the stupidest idea I've ever heard. No one would ever click. And Netflix said, why would we ever stop sending DVDs in the mail? That's a much better method than you're recommending. We disagreed, kept at it for 12 years, convinced the entire industry, and woke up one day and we're generating billions of new dollars from this business. And one day I said, before I wore $15 black t-shirts to work and wore suits and ties and luxury clothing, I realized that I had next to no relationship with any brand, because brands treated 12-year-old girls the same way they treated 30, 40, 50-year-old men, 92-year-old grandmothers or grandfathers. The primary method of communication was something that in the old days would be called a letter that became an email. Static typically looks like a letter, and everyone got the same one. The next form of communication was something that looked like a print ad that also became an email. So now it had some pictures in it, a little bit more attractive, but it was a print ad and generic and traditional and one size fits all. That print ad also became a banner ad that we could watch online. And then last but not least is, can the TV commercials that you and I grew up with moved over to the Facebooks and the Instagrams and the YouTubes and the TikToks and what have you. And again, typically there were as many commercials selling you and me dresses and lipstick and high heels as there were selling us clothing and things that were relevant. So one day I said, there's got to be a better way. There's all this data. Nobody welcomes me properly. Nobody thanks me. There's not a lot of customer journey experience. And no one saying, we know you love blue shirts like this, Ken.
Right.
Wanted to let you know they're 30% off, but instead they tell us pocketbooks are on sale. And you sit there and scratch your head and say, I don't carry a pocketbook. I wonder why they're telling me this. So I decided to do something about it, and thus the launch of AdGreets.
Fantastic. And we'll jump way more into that in a little bit. This market is changing. It's a little slow, but it's also fast, depending on where you're at. It's all, everything's relative. So, but the granularity,
lots of buzz, more buzz that, a little more sizzle than steak, but both are happening. Yeah.
Right. So absolutely, there's more granularity in marketing today than there's ever been before. And you said, that you're not, the customer journey isn't there. And you said something. I recently had a revolution in my entire business and realized how much money I've been leaving on the table on thank you pages. And you said something about a proper thank you page, right?
No one thanks you.
Nobody thanks you after the business. And in my entire career, and I'll be totally honest here, you know, I've been making web pages and websites and processes for over 20 years. And I've never paid. I thought when somebody got to the thank you page that my job was done. Like, oh, they made a purchase, I'm done. And I would like to know your opinion. My opinion now is that the thank you pages, when your audience is the most captive, they just bought something from you or they just made a transaction from you. Now they're trying to figure out how to use it. How do you recommend to your clients that they capitalize on that specific piece of attention that you have from your audience?
So we have a specific point of view, and quite simply, the grandiose point of view is that no one in the world thanks you for anything other than a host or hostess at a restaurant. So if I was in St. Louis today and you and I went out for a bite to eat, on the way out, someone would say, "Thanks for coming, hope to see you again." And if they knew you, they'd say Ken or talk to you by your last name or what have you. And that's about it. So briefly, you know, and we think it's very easy to get people to like you more and to spend more. So briefly, what we primarily recommend is, you know, is a simple email. So we build emails, and because you've opted in and we're allowed to talk to you by name, it might say, "Can you have a personal video message from, you know, any store USA?" And that makes people open about twice as much, because now it doesn't seem like it's going to be a letter or that static print ad. And when you open it up, we typically do some form of personalized GIF. So it might say, "Ken, you know, on behalf of Banana Republic, Macy's, whatever it is, we want to thank you." Up comes your blue shirt, your Levi's, whatever it all is. And it says, "Click for a personalized video." And when you click, it just turns into a more fleshed out, "Ken, you know, on behalf of everyone, we want to thank you for this, that, and the other thing." And then preferably say, our way of saying thank you, purchase something again during the month of April, and we'll give you 25% off. So it's not only how do you make someone feel good, how do you differentiate yourself from every brand in the world, because no one does it. Also, how do you turn a $100 purchase into a $200 purchase, right?
Right.
And the other big one that's somewhat similar that we're starting to get a little traction on is replenishment, which is just the same thing. I use a bunch of products from a company called Kiehl's, you know, facial fuel soap.
Right.
And they know better than I know, you know, that it lasts 3 months, this size container, and this one lasts 1 month, and this one lasts.
Yes.
So I don't understand why more brands don't push out, again, compelling, because our eyes glaze over from the print ad and letter-like message after a short period of time. So to sit here and say, "Ken, hard to believe it's been 3 months since you bought A or B or C. There's a good chance you're ready to reorder," because I usually run out of things, don't have them for a week or 3, and then eventually either go online or go to a store and replenish. But if all I had to do is press a button, and next thing I know, they tell me it's going to be delivered on Friday.
Right.
I do it, and now they're making more money. And that's, by the way, that's true with my Nikes. We were talking about exercise. So I wear Nikes, and I'm always shocked that they don't reach out to me, because I now buy them online. I got tired of going to a retail store, and online I can even find the most expensive ones that are discounted at the Nike.com.
Right.
And I'm always surprised. I don't say, "Hey, Eric, hard to believe it's been 6 months since you bought Nikes." Now, they don't maybe know if I'm buying it for fashion or for exercise. If you're using them for exercise, it's great to refresh them every 6 months to avoid, you know, leg, hip, ankle, you know, injuries and da-da-da. How would you like another pair of your Zoom 1800s, whatever they are? So I think a lot of brands are leaving a lot of, you know, money on the table.
Absolutely.
And why does the diner person thank us, and why does no one else?
Right. I think one of the brands that comes to mind really quick that does a phenomenal job for this, and you know, not only half the world even is capable of using this brand, is Dollar Shave Club. Right. They knocked it out of the park. You know, I don't even have to think about toothpaste anymore. It just every 3 months I got 6 containers of toothpaste that show up at my house. Right. I don't even have to think about it. all my wagers,
and I mean,
all that stuff.
I think that's what it's about, because, many of us, I sit here and I'm like, honey, to my wife, is there any more toothpaste?
Yeah.
Oh no, I'll have to go and order it from Amazon, or maybe I'll make it down to CVS before the end of the week.
Right. And we don't need to think about that stuff anymore. We can automate all of those decisions out of our life, our deodorant, our toothpaste.
Yeah, all that stuff that we're going to use every day. Yes.
All that stuff. We don't even need to think about it anymore. We just have it show up at our house, and I promise it is a much better experience in life.
A much better experience.
And you can spend your brain power on other things other than why I got to go buy toothpaste, right? Yeah. It's horrible. Now, all that being said, personalized videos for every purchase. As a business owner, I scratch my head and think, man, that's a lot of work. I got to make a video every time somebody buys something. How do you advise a client, or do you have a software that helps them?
Yeah. So we've automated the whole thing, 11 years later, and 5 billion of these messages.
Okay.
So what you're really doing is building one version that's modular. So if you just want to think of video or any kind of a message, there are variables and there are components. Right. So, in the email, for someone to understand, either visible in a URL or invisible in a URL, there are variables. So we're going to have the brand, and this all gets completely automated. They're going to pass us the word KEN, and we'll integrate with their product line, and they'll pass us something that says it was SKU number 1842, which we know is the blue shirt or the Colgate toothpaste or the shaving clubs, whatever it was, and any other thing that we decide as this master template. And so we build a demo. Eventually, within a week or a couple of days, everybody likes it, and then we do some integration, as Ken versus Mary versus whatever.
Right.
And then you're up and running. And then the only trick there is, you decide, hey, every 6 months we should refresh it, because as compelling as it is and how much better it is than what everybody else is doing, our eyes will glaze over from that after a while too. So there should be, another version.
So you're telling me that it increases sales and it's easy to do. It must be super duper expensive then.
Well, yeah, I mean, I know, look, in some of the notes that I got from you before this meeting, there was a lot of interest in what we call small and medium-sized businesses. We've focused, rightfully or wrongfully, on what I would call, really large kind of muscular businesses in general. Now, I really want to do both, and I'd like to have even more automated tools where anyone could do this. So today we do it as a bespoke product, and when we get hired by an Amazon or BMW, it's fairly hands-on, the original versions and all of that, and people pay us about $30,000 a month. But for that, we're helping them do their welcome, their thank you, their Facebook, their Google. We're now doing this on television, which we can get to in a minute.
Right.
I've always felt that there's as good or maybe a better business for the guy who owns 1 or 4 pizzerias, 1 or 5 nail parlors, hair cutting salons, the tire shop. So we actually own a brand that we call ADGREETZ, but we've been we've been working so hard with so many brands that we haven't been able to really build that out. We went to third-party who said, hey, American Express, why don't you own ADGREETZ with us? We'll call it AdGreets by American Express. You give me X amount of money so I can bring in 8 more guys to build it out tomorrow. Right. And you also agree to spend $10 million telling small businesses and medium-sized businesses about it, because I don't really have the skill set or want to market it to every nail salon, in the United States of America. So we just haven't gotten there yet. But getting $50 and $100 and $199, depending on how many messages they're doing from the nail salon, to me is as interesting as getting $33,000 from BMW.
Yeah, and BMW has a lot of resources, but what's happening right now in the world is that the big clients are commoditizing these kinds of products so that they will be available for the small mom and pop shops in the future, right?
Yeah.
So this technology's, if you see the big guys doing it, you just got to wait a couple weeks. Somebody's going to invent it for the small guy too, right? Eventually.
So you do have it. There's eventually a drop and drag, and there's 4 different restaurant templates, and you just put your pizza in, your colors, you pick your music, your this or that, and now you can push it out as an email to Facebook, and every pizzeria can be, doing something compelling on a budget level that works, for them. But it is a completely, different business. And the question is, do you have, 6 other guys to build that, 6 people to build that when you're busy?
Well, and you've got to you got to choose a system that you're going to integrate with, right? So you'd choose, if you're going to do a restaurant, you would choose a big POS that you're going to integrate with or something like that, so you can pull that data.
We sort of integrate, you have to integrate with sort of everyone, or else then the tool isn't good. So the answer is, the simplest ideas are actually more complex than they sound and take a lot of time and energy. So AdGreets has been sitting here, on the back burner for 6 years. And, now we have people starting to talk about new investment and all of this. So, if and when, we'd like to sit there and say, hey, here are 6 new guys in 9 months. Let's get this up and running.
Right. So obviously you had a pretty big corporate background before you went into this world. So you were able to rub shoulders and elbows with the right kinds of investors. But if somebody didn't have that, are you currently investor backed or client backed at this point?
Yeah. So the short version of the tale is, over a couple of different, I wouldn't really call them rounds, because we didn't really call them rounds like that, but more or less we did friends and family, which were primarily wealthy guys that I knew from my 30 years at Warner Brothers.
Right.
And I was able to throw money on the table with them, even though these people were much richer, which made it a lot easier. So rather than, getting on bended knee and saying, do you have any dough? So we raised about $12 million, roughly half of it in what you would call a round A traditionally, and half of it what they would call a bridge loan. And that's, how we did it. We now break even. And now we're anticipating, of course, doing better than break even, because that's not a very good business model.
Right.
So we keep on getting more clients signing up for longer, and we keep on going into new versions of the business. We now work for ad platforms. Our original client was a brand, then it's a brand and/or agency. Now it's a brand, agency, or ad platform. Right. So there's an announcement out today with a broadcaster that you don't know and I didn't really know, called Nine. So Nine is, the ABC of Australia. They have broadcast, they have streaming. We are now their personalization partner or vendor. Their 75 sales guys go out and sell Coca-Cola or any brand in the world. And they say, for an additional fee, would you like smart ads that tell you where your local supermarket is, or know whether you're a man, woman, married, family, and all of those elements. And then they come back to us. We build those variety of ads. We serve them up. And the interesting thing about this Nine is they're doing it both on streaming and live TV, which they're the first guy we've met who can do it on live television also. And that literally got announced, today. And next week we'll make an announcement with a US version. Okay,
wonderful. So I think as of right now, I hear this all the time, like, my Facebook and my Google, people think that they have a different, and they do have different experiences on Facebook and Google than other people. Are you saying that in the future, if I'm watching the TV show Friends on a platform, I will see different commercials on that TV show than my neighbor would?
Yeah. Well, first of all, so today they can currently target, not over the air. Most of over the air can't. It's mostly on streaming today, although the guys at Nine in Australia are more sophisticated. There's a new digital technology that most of the broadcasters have embraced and not done anything with yet. They
Okay.
did it because they thought they needed to, and they've never done anything. One of these days, they're probably going to embrace it. Nine did this thing early. But yes, if we were to going back to my original opening comment about streaming video and all of that, there are people who buy a service and pay more to avoid commercials. And then there are large quantities of people who say, I want it for free or for less, and I'll take the commercials. So yes, today, day one, we can, whether it's as simple as just calling out your city, town, and village and putting up the address of the store, whether it's telling you to see whatever movie's coming out this weekend. Let's pretend it's the Academy Award winner, that had a very small box office number like Coda. So now I would assume this weekend, based on my movie business experience, Coda will go wider, and it'll even play in your neighborhood, which maybe it didn't beforehand.
Right.
And so, my experience, I see an ad for Coda or the Batman, it doesn't matter. And then I used to go, hey, honey, we should see that, before there was COVID. Right. And we say, hey, where's it playing? And when I was younger, we would open up the newspaper and look. I still get some newspapers, so I still might. Or I'd go to Google and say, where is it? Because I know there are like 5 theater chains, and it's going to be in 2 or 3 of them and not in 2 or 3 of them. So now when you see that ad, it's the exact same Coda ad, but at the end, it's going to tell you can go to the AMC or you can go to this chain, and it'll tell you that it's 6, 8, and 10 tonight. And if you see it tomorrow, and because it's Friday, they change it to 7, 9, and 11. So we believe in, how do you get rid of friction? How do you not make people have to work harder? If you live in this town, Pizza Hut may be in business with somebody called DoorDash, and in another town, it might be called Uber Eats. Right. Do I want to go and find that out? Or if it sits there and says Los Angeles, New York, or a little town and village, it says order via DoorDash, and I know I can just open up my app or whatever, because you're going to lose half the people whenever you ask them to do more work.
If not more, right? I mean,
yes, if not more. I try to be nice. I mean, I had a really smart person I pitched last week from a really top flight creative agency who, scared the heck out of me, although it's a good reason for my business to exist. And she said, at our agency, we believe that 86% of all ads are invisible.
Oh, I would say that.
Yeah, because you don't have any babies at home still, Ken, do you?
I have a 10-year-old and a 15-year-old. So my household is packed with joy every day.
So therefore, you don't need to see a diaper ad, but there was a time when diaper ads were important, and now they're like irrelevant. So when I was dropping off my kid at college, Walmart was telling me diapers were half price. So it makes me scratch my head, don't they know anything more about me? They have lots of other products that could potentially interest me. The one that doesn't is diapers. Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So it's a waste of their money, and it weakens the relationship between the consumer and the brand, because they sit there, the same way that Burger King commercial, there are ways on Facebook and Google to even know if this person is a vegan. So we could talk about the Impossible Burger, which might delight that ad recipient, because you know how
they'll go 5 miles out of their way to get it.
Exactly.
Right?
And I would also argue, there's some of this, going back to the same movie theater thing, I don't even know where my local Burger King is. So why the hell they don't tell me that, whether, here's one that's 4 miles away, or here's another one that's 7 miles away or 10 miles away, whether they want to put all 3 addresses, whether they want to rotate the ads and give me choices, because maybe that's where I work and that's closer and that's a more convenient one, even though it's further away. It's just make it easy. Talk to people about what they like, relevance. My wife and I, no kids at home, unlike you.
Right.
But there was a time where it's like, hey, Los Angeles, thinking about dinner for you and your family this Friday night. The answer was, yeah. What are we going to do? We gotta get dinner together for my wife and myself and these 2 boys. The boys have moved out. That's no longer a relevant thing, but for 15 years it was. For 20,
Right. So you founded AdGreets how many years ago?
11 years ago.
11 years ago, pretty new in the mindset of hyper granular ad deployment, right?
Correct. And it starts off like this and turns into that. So, it was like, hey, can you do this on email? And then somebody says, hey, do you think you could add Facebook? Hey, we like Google. And rather than saying no, or rather than saying, I only want to serve slices of pizza, rightly or wrongly, we decided the whole world's going to go here, and we'd like to be able to say yes to everyone, sort of about everything. So they don't have to go to Ken for email and their app, and they don't have to go to us for Facebook and Google, and this guy for Snapchat
Right.
and LinkedIn and whatever. Because as we convince more people, this is how you communicate, welcome, thank, converse with, compelling, relevant. You want to convince that guy from BMW who talks on 12 different channels to eventually do it everywhere.
Right. So I'm sure there's some business owners and people, want to start businesses out there scratching their head going, wow, he gets $30,000 a month for a client, 12 years in, they're break even. We've all heard early bird gets the worm, but sometimes the early mouse gets the trap.
Mm-hmm.
When you're going through this and you're not to profit yet and you're chugging along, how do you convince yourself that you didn't walk into that trap, that you are on the right path, that this is the right goal? In those years that you're operating outside of profit or on the negative side of profit, or harder years than whenever you're break even and you're going up, how do you maintain that tenacity and that faith through that process to know that you're on the right path, to know that you've got the right product when sometimes the world might be seemingly telling you something different?
Yeah, well, it's a really good question. So number one is, you have to continue to believe, is it a good idea, or not? And we've all seen bad ideas, that shouldn't probably have been born and didn't really succeed. We've seen bad ideas.
I think I've seen more great ideas too early.
So things, look, most great ideas are too early, and everything takes longer to happen than you plan, and everything costs more money. So the answer is, it's really difficult and really challenging, and I'm not sure that I would advise everyone not to be negative to do this. We would be out of business if I hadn't had a significant career and if I hadn't saved X amount of money. So when we had a bad month or a client was late paying us and we were going to still break even, but I got to make payroll, it's the 31st.
Yeah.
And the guy was supposed to pay us on the 25th. And what are you going to do except for ask your financial guy to keep on reaching out and saying, how are we doing? And they go, oh, it's coming. We've never been stiffed, but there's late payments. So,
Yes.
I funded the thing, but I could argue that we would be dead and buried and out if I didn't have that, wherewithal. I've just always, the reason why I've kept with it is because we improve metrics so exponentially that, I just believe that eventually the world embraces something that works like crazy, knowing that old bad habits die really, really slowly. And most people aren't you or me, and not to be mean-spirited, are a little lazier, would be happy to keep their head down, to do business the same old way, who say, what's wrong with running a TV spot for Macy's and talking to you and me about dresses, pocketbooks, and high heels, and then not reminding us where their local Macy's is, when you don't have to do that today.
And I would say Blockbuster had the same mentality.
Yeah.
Right.
You just hope. And then again, the entrepreneur's point of view is above and beyond, having fun and changing things is, what happens is you start to see competitors or other people in your space sell for a lot of money. So that gives you a lot of enthusiasm. Gee, this guy only does that, or whatever they do, and they just sold for 60 million, 160 million. They went public and they're trading at, I looked at, one of our competitors, they went public at $1.3 billion in the kind of soft market. They were, I think, at 850 million today. But it's tough, and it's really, the amount of bills that and from the conversation we were having, and your wife in a small business and all of that.
Yeah.
To pay some rent, to pay some employees, to keep the lights on, to have internet, just all those things add up to whether it's 18 or 48 bills a month. and even if they're not, even when you're not, Google or Microsoft, it ends up being a lot of money, and it's a big challenge.
And sometimes if you're out there and you're thinking about starting a business, sometimes you got to put it all on the table. Sometimes you got to cash out the whole 401k to make the payroll that week.
So you have to decide. And what makes it tougher, if you're me, is a wife who said, she doesn't, I loved you more when you were a president at Warner Brothers, being a big money earner, going to premieres, having cars that would pick us up, and all that other good stuff. Are we going to be living in a studio apartment on the wrong side of town, eating cat food when we're 70?
Well, that's a risk.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's a risk worth taking. I came into this world with nothing. I'm happy to leave it with nothing as well.
Yeah. So, you also learn that it's not about the luxury suits I wore. I love my Subaru more than I loved my $100,000 BMW. I love my $15 t-shirt and blue jeans, and life is good.
Absolutely. So this episode's being released in May of 22, and 2023 is a really big year for digital marketing and the exiting of the third-party cookie. And I know we're talking to business owners and stuff like that, but this is going to impact the entire planet, or at least the United States, on how the end user is seeing ads, how they're being delivered. I think it's going to be, for the most part, people are going to feel like it's less creepy for a while until we figure this, until all the marketers figure out how to get back in front of them. How do you think the removal of the third-party cookie from browsers like Chrome and Edge is going to affect the marketing landscape?
It will change it a bit, but what we find, and I take the opportunity to potentially be wrong, but I don't think I am, is that data is a commodity. We talk to companies every day, whether you or I like it or not. Almost everything we do in life, other than maybe 100% cash transaction, is captured, is aggregated, is rolled up. So there are a wide variety of data companies that know 50, 250, or 2,500 things about us. And companies of a particular size and ad platforms are acquiring or developing relationships with all of these data companies. So they know how old you are, they know if you're married, they know if you have kids, they know if you own cars, are you a renter, are you a homeowner, do you like the Rolling Stones, do you like Jay-Z, and all of those things. And in turn, you can make lots of intelligent, I wouldn't even call them guesses, but determinants that don't talk to people who've got kids this age, about diapers. And, not everybody knows whether you're a vegan or not, but all of that is happening. And there are a lot of people that are, I would argue, smarter. There are lots of companies that are worth billions and billions of dollars, some publicly traded, some acquired by giant ad agency, parent holding companies, and they have all of this data. So there is that ability to know where you are. And
I would argue
the bar is so low, it's much easier. It's easy to do something that's better than talking to me about dresses or diapers when we don't wear dresses and we don't have babies.
I would argue that Facebook has the ability to predict within a pretty reasonable accuracy of who's going to become vegan next month.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's literally,
they could probably even push people into becoming vegan if they really wanted to.
Yeah, no, they know what we've done and where we've been. I mean, look, I don't know the latest numbers and things change, but there used to be 650 data points you could check off as you wanted to reach, and thousands of affinity points. Do you like basketball? Do you like baseball? Do you like the Yankees or do you like the Lakers? And all of that. And then, and then your ad can say the reason you want to sign up for this sports service is to watch the Lakers games and not talk about hockey if the guy doesn't care about, hockey. We believe everyone doesn't love the whole bouquet. The average person likes individual flowers. So I don't really want to watch Sex and the City, the new version on HBO, just because I don't. It's nothing. It's just I don't. but yet I'm, and it's not that I'm such a macho guy or such a jock or anything, but I'm watching this Lakers show that they have on, that's great. So there are things that I look forward to and enjoy, and other things that I say, I don't think I want to watch it for $100 because I have limited time. And, it's the same as the dress and diaper conversation, but it's about food. It's about, about entertainment, anything and everything. And so they know if you've seen a lot of Marvel movies, and then there's a good chance you're going to want to pay $13 and go to the movie theater and see the new Marvel movie if it's not for free on a streaming service.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think so you believe that the companies have acquired enough data about an individual that they're still going to be able to accurately market to them over the long haul without the third party.
I can't talk about every company. What I can say is, we talk to companies who know nothing about anyone. We talk to companies that know tons of things about people. We talk to the data companies that know everything about almost everyone. And all you have to do is be a company that's in a position to pay their fee to utilize that data. And then we talk to ad platforms that know a great deal of information about all of us. So you can sit here and decide, who gets Louis Vuitton and who gets Old Navy.
Right. Okay. So let's just make up a customer really quick. I'm a guy living in the Midwest, and I have 20 tanning studios. I know nothing about my clients. Is there any tricks or something he should be doing to start knowing more about his clients? Obviously, he owns tanning studios. He knows his core demographic is a female 18 to 40, but that's really all he knows.
The major thing you always have to do is collect data on every single person who ever becomes a customer. So even though people think, so you got to sit here and get their name and track their gender and this and that. So on certain platforms, you can build lookalikes. So you can take the 50, 100, or 3,000 past, current, prospective customers who have gone through the door and build that into much more significant lists.
Right.
And then the rest of life is primarily about come up with a strategy, do some affordable testing, learn, revise, and continue. So even as I sit here and act expert about what we do, our whole business is primarily what differentiates us than the traditional advertising is, yes, we'll talk to you about your blue shirt and me about my black shirt, or whatever things we think are relevant. We'll make it easier because we'll tell you how you can get it. And then lastly, we'll also make a wide variety of ads about things for you, because our eyes glaze over. If we watch the Super Bowl together, our favorite ad, we say, how brilliant. The second time we say, how clever. And the third time we go, that old thing again, where's the skip ad button? So you also need a variety of freshness. So primarily what we bring to the party is, let's not talk to Eric about dresses and pocketbooks because he doesn't wear them. Let's talk about things that either we know or we think he would like. Then let's remind him if there are 10 things that are good about the brand, let's tell him 3, 4, or 5. And live television. Oh, she got it. And then let's learn what works, where it works, what channel it works on, what time of day, what gender, what demo, what this, what that. And then I call it fishing where the fish are. So learn. And then you and I go fishing today. There's somewhere we catch 20 fish each. Somewhere else we catch 0. If we want fish tomorrow, let's go back to where we got 20.
Right. So there's a couple points that I want to go after. The one that sticks out the most is that you said, and I think this is where a lot of marketers fall off the boat. We talk about this a lot. You made the statement, the ad for you, and pointed to me directly.
Yes.
And I talked to a lot of business owners like, oh, I want to build a campaign, and they build it for this like perfect, like this one person that may or may not be their ideal client.
Right.
Should they be making ads specifically for individuals, or is it a little bit bigger than that?
Well, no, I think no. Well, it's groups of individuals, unless you're doing things like email where you already have a list and you're pushing it. So, for example, if you call out a city, town, and village at the beginning of an ad, and you say Pittsburgh, thinking about dinner this Thursday. So nobody's ever heard an ad that says Pittsburgh. Nobody hears timely things about dinner and you sit there and set a window that's going to run from 2 to 5 or whatever you think is the window that people are making these decisions, whether it's a family, and should you show Ken's significant other and the 2 kids, not really your kids, but a smiling family that represents you. But that's a bad ad for my 23-year-old son who just broke up with his girlfriend. Certainly in turn doesn't have a significant other and no kids. So when you sit there and say you and your family, go to dinner at Chipotle's or order in, that's a turnoff to him, but it solves a problem for you and your wife, 2 busy working, people who've got to feed the kids. And maybe you want to press the button, and maybe some Tex-Mex from Chipotle or whatever it might be, or a pizza might solve it. So even just a location, a day of the week, genders, marital status, familia status. We do things. I sit there and go, I don't think my 23-year-old son wants to see a guy with salt and pepper hair in his ad for deodorant or toothpaste. And maybe I don't want to see a 23-year-old, tatted kid with a skateboard in my ad. So if there are ways, and by the way, we're not talking about going out and making multi-million-dollar new commercials. We're talking about just editing in a couple of frames of that person, or buying footage which can cost you $6 or $60, So all of it is kind of affordable. You're talking
about the same ad copy, just different B-roll.
It's the same ad copy with a couple of different towns, a Monday through Sunday, the store that's closer to them, or rotating through a few stores, and talking about families where that's important, and not talking about families, where it's not. And then once you figure that out, what's the B, C, or D version? Not for the other person, but so that when you see it again, you don't want to take a pen and poke it in your eye. And when you see it again, because, here's why tanning is good for you.
Absolutely. All right. So off the wall question, you're in the marketing biz. You don't work for Amazon, Google, and those places, but I hear this all the time from consumers. People believe that these devices are listening to their audio and then prompting them ads based on that. Do you think that's happening today, or do you think that will be happening in the future?
Well, first of all, so I have a bunch of Amazon devices at my house that a friend of mine who's in the business is the best gift giver. And every Christmas I get, something really great from him. And so, I've never gone out to buy an Amazon or an Apple, smart device, but yet I love music. So before I have a meeting like this, I press the button and I tell them to tune in my favorite hippie, non-commercial rock radio station, maybe from Minneapolis, maybe from New York, maybe from LA. And I immediately hit the mute microphone button. So I don't really know. I think they do. Look, I'm surprised my Apple Watch hasn't started talking to us yet, which, about once a day, once every day and a half in the middle of a pitch like this, it'll start saying, it'll just pick up on what we said and start talking to us. On one hand, Apple's the king of privacy. I think it's trying to help me in theory. But nothing surprises me. And I think, and Google is probably reading my emails. I mean, electronically, of course.
Right. I mean, we've given it permission to do it, right? All the terms and conditions were...
on page 27 of some small print that we would never read, and we're just looking for the I agree button. So I'm not into super snooping. I'm not into creepiness, but I'd rather have an ad or a message that's beneficial to me than one that's completely irrelevant.
And I think the consumer wants that too, right? I think it's on both sides. I want to know about cool new technology. I want to learn about things that would help me out in life.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And I don't know about those things unless I see the ads, and I don't watch ads on television anymore at all, right?
And we don't watch ads on television anymore, even though I'm out promoting that we're doing ads on television. But you and I aren't, but a lot of people are.
A lot of people are, right? They have the free Hulu subscription. Does Netflix have a...
No, but they're the last one. So they're the only holdout. They're the only holdout. Everyone else does. And they claim, people claim in, the 500 trade things that I read a day in between meetings, that it'll come. And it most likely will come because it's how you pick up that, they've got the big jump ahead of everyone. They have, 50 or 150 million more subs than anybody else in the world. And so probably one of the only reasons, people don't have it is either my mother, who we got it for her at her last house and we haven't hooked her up here. And then of course could never remember how to use it, or because $12, or now who knows what it went. It just went up, I think today or something. I don't know what it costs. Fortunately, I don't know. But so if you offer it for half the price and have some commercials in it, you'll garner another 22 million subscribers around the world or something.
Yes, absolutely. So Eric, I've had a blast today talking with you and learning about your business and what you do.
Good. Well,
if somebody wanted to work with you, directly, how would they get in contact with you?
Yeah. So Eric at ADGREETZ.com, ADGR. Yeah. And there's info buttons. We respond to every email we get. I get 36, odd ones a day. I mean, the response may be, thanks so much. We're all set at this point in time. We're not looking for new coders, new SEO executives, new developers, new whatever it might be. But we respond to everyone because that's how I was raised at Warner Brothers, was you respond to everyone. You have, you have a responsibility to be polite.
Well, and that's where opportunities come from, right?
Yeah, and you never know. I do this, so whether you and I become best friends, whether I say, by the way, Ken, someone in your world somewhere, somehow, when you meet that guy from Macy's or Bloomingdale's or this one or that one, if you help them become a client of ours, whether it's Eric meet Jimmy, Jimmy meet Eric, or whether you say, I want to roll up my sleeves and get my fingernails dirty and be involved in this, Eric, we give commissions for up to 5 years. So if they become a good client, Ken makes a lot of dough. Because when you're in my business, you don't have the quantity of salespeople at the salaries you would like. Right. So, I've just brought on all these Warner Brothers executives. Warner Brothers got bought, as you know, by AT&T, who pretty much fired almost every executive. And so I can't afford to hire these executives, but these people who were the president of Europe or the president of APAC or the president of Latin America selling shows like Friends and Big Bang Theory and Harry Potter, I say, can you help me, get connected in this business where we're going to help them deploy smart ads, the broadcaster, the OTT streaming services, the way Facebook and Google have that capability, because if you're them, you want to be able to compete effectively with Google and Facebook. So they do, and they, some work hard, some don't work hard. And so we offer that. Yeah. So Eric at AdGreets, info at AdGreets, and thanks for having me here. It's a terrific forum.
Thank you so much for joining us. Anything you'd like to leave the audience with today?
No, it's you got to have a good idea, but it's all about hard work. I'm not bragging, and I sometimes think I'm stupid, but I do this. I usually start my first call by 7 a.m. That's my new rule, because we were doing 6, and I like to wake up an hour before the call. But then, tonight I have calls at like 8:30 and 9:30 because I'm in business in India. So, there really is the harder you work, the luckier you get. How do you get to Carnegie Hall? Practice, 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 90% perspiration, 10% inspiration, all those things. Even your great idea with financing, it's a bear and it's a lot of work, and your employees are pains in the butts. And, that's maybe even the hardest part, is managing the people versus even selling the concept through, because you know what that's like.
Right.
But,
I like the statement.
There's fun, and if you can succeed, you're happy.
Right. There's no $1 billion idea. There's only $1 billion executions. Right.
Yes.
Without the execution behind it, it's never going to happen. And it's always more challenging than you think. There's always some variable in there that the programmer comes back and says, what about this? And I'm like, oh shoot, I didn't even think about that. So thank you so much for your time today. I very much appreciate it.
Good being here. Thanks for the opportunity.
Awesome. That's it for today's show, folks. If you'd like to join my text line community, the number is 314-370-2871. All you have to do to join that text line is send me any question about business or technology. I'll do all the research, and I'll give you an absolutely free, totally unbiased answer. Get to work.